Every global crisis in modern history has brought about changes in commercial air travel.
So how will the coronavirus pandemic alter the way we fly in the future? Joining us live via Skype from Washington, D.C. is airline analyst Seth Kaplan. He is the co-host of the industry podcast Airlines Confidential. Good morning. Good to see you.
Likewise. Morning, Jessica, Frank. Good to be here.
So you've come up with 4 M's of what we can expect. The first M is masks. Explain what you mean by that.
Masks, yeah. Anybody who's ever flown to Asia over the past couple decades knows that even when there's no immediate threat, you get on a flight, you'll see some people wearing masks. And look, we all, whether we realize it or not, are becoming germaphobes. And going forward, I mean, right now, just about everybody's doing it. But even a year or two from now, when hopefully the real threat has passed, you're going to see some people on a flight, even from Los Angeles to Chicago, even domestic flights, wearing masks, because we're just conscious of the fact that when we're packed that tightly together on an airplane, there's a certain amount of risk, just like any other room full of people.
Yeah, you say the second M is minimal service. It's already no frills in so many ways. What's going away and you say will never come back?
Yeah, at least not for a long time. Some of the few frills that have come back in recent years on the major airlines, things they took away when they were all really struggling in the years after 9/11. I'm talking, you get on United and they give you one of those stroopwafels in economy on a short haul flight, or free beer and wine in economy on a flight to Asia or Europe, those kinds of things. They've taken away a lot of that on health grounds right now. I mean, understandable. They don't want flight attendants having any unnecessary interactions with customers. But again, those are things that they brought back because they were doing well. And even once the COVID threat passed, don't expect that stroopwafel to be the first thing that comes back. These airlines are once again back to square one, struggling just to get through the day, and it's going to be bare bones.
Seth, the third M is middle seat. And I think the one good thing that could come out of this is they stop cramming us into these airplanes. We're practically sitting on top of each other. Is there any way going forward that they'll give us a little more space?
This is one that is harder to say. They're doing it right now. Delta, for one, has blocked all the middle seats. But look, right now, that's easy to do. Not that many people are traveling, right? So the interesting thing will be to see, once there is demand again, and once they have to start turning people away to block a middle seat, what are they going to do then? The problem is that there is kind of a connection with how many seats they've crammed onto those planes and what we pay. And that's something else we can talk about because, look, as uncomfortable as it's been in recent years, airfares even before this had become rather low. So there's a trade-off there. There are airlines around the world that have said they are prepared at least for a medium-term blocking of middle seats, even once the immediate threat has passed.
Well, let's talk about the ticket prices and the fuel prices. Right now, fuel prices are low, ticket prices are low. Post 9/11, everything shot up. All sorts of fees were added to our tickets. Some of those fees didn't go away for years. What's going to happen?
Well, in the short term, once it becomes safe to travel again, once Dr. Fauci and others say, okay, you can get back on a plane, airlines are going to have to discount to get us back on board for a few reasons. Number one, a lot of people are going to be afraid. Number two, look at the financial situation right now, right? We are rather clearly in a recession. We don't need to wait for confirmation of that. All this unemployment, we just don't have as much money as we used to have. So airlines are going to have to discount to get people back on board. And you mentioned that cheap fuel prices, just like gasoline prices are way down, airlines are paying less for fuel. That's good, at least, because that means they can deal with somewhat lower airfares. But over the long term, the question is, what kind of extra costs are there going to be? And really, back to those middle seats, that's an example of a big one. If all of a sudden they have to try to basically get all the same money from fewer people, well, that in the long run would tend to push up airfares. So we'll have to see where this all shakes out and what kind of new either regulations, let's say the government saying you can't put as many people on board a flight, or just consumer preferences kind of push them in that direction. This is the worst crisis they've ever faced.
Yeah.
Not only worse than 9/11 or SARS or the recession, it's worse than all of those combined. And so the impact also going to be greater.
Seth, I know a lot of the airlines are allowing you to buy a ticket now and cancel in the future. Have you heard is that going smoothly at this point? And is there a general rule of thumb on that?
It's interesting how the different airlines have handled this differently. Even airlines that are rather similar to each other. United has been criticized about being stingy with refunds. American generally has been praised as being rather generous about letting people not only get a voucher but get their money back. But in general, right now, broadly speaking, there's unprecedented flexibility. And so whereas usually you have to kind of play that game about, oh, you know, I don't want to book too late, but maybe I don't want to book too early, wait and see when I get the best deal. Right now, I mean, look, I booked a flight for October recently. I have no idea if I'm going to be able to take that trip, but it was just so cheap that I booked it. And I know that I could always, you know, get a credit, rebook for cheaper if I want, or not travel and use it later. So you do have some extra flexibility, but certainly there are people right now who shouldn't be spending money on anything, and so you kind of have to weigh that with just the cash crunch going on.
Yeah,
absolutely. Seth, thanks so much. Good talking to you,
Jessica,
this morning.
thank you.
Once again, airline analyst Seth Kaplan, co-host of the industry podcast Airlines Confidential. For more details, you can check out their website and follow them on social media.
Still ahead, oil prices.